First question. When and where were you born?
New Orleans, Louisiana, August 20th, 1929.
Do you know what time in the morning you were born or in the evening?
I think it was sometime in early afternoon. I'm not sure. I wasn't quite awake.
Makes sense. Did anything interesting happen during your birth? Was it a normal birth?
It was normal. It was at home, and the midwife was there, because in those days you didn't go to the hospital to have the babies. Some did, but we didn't, you know. And you know, I was born on Elysian Fields Avenue, at the corner of Prier.
Did your mother deliver all of her children at home? Your sisters too?
I think they were all home births. My sister was 13 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was an owie. And I think I was 10 pounds.
Gosh.
They had big babies. So.
My goodness. Hopefully I won't have big babies. That's a lot. Who was president when you were born?
Who was president when I was born? Hoover. No. Coolidge? 29. I think it was Coolidge because Hoover didn't come in until 30, I think it was, and then Roosevelt came in and... No, I guess it was Hoover. Either Hoover or Coolidge. I've lived through 14 of them.
Wow.
So.
That's amazing. Tell me about your siblings. How far apart were you, and did you get along?
Well, I had two older sisters, and Dolores, which was the oldest, was 10 years older than I was, and then my sister Rosemary was in between us, and she was about 5 years older than me and 5 years younger than Dolores. So there was a good period of about 5 years between each of us. My sister Rosemary, God love her, she died in her sleep.
Yeah. But you had Dolores for a long time, which was
yes, good. I buried her too.
Yeah, I know.
You know, 5 was not a good year for us.
Yeah, I know. But it's gotten better since then, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Did you guys get along when you were growing up, being the youngest and being the only boy and having 2 older sisters and so much older than you were? And
I was always, no, you can't do that, you know. But that was okay.
You had 3 moms?
Yes. And when I got into trouble, my sister Rosemary would come bail me out. She was better than most of the guys around there anyway. She was a tough one.
It's good to
She
have
was the Hannah.
She was the Hannah? I'm sure Hannah will appreciate
that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love you, Hannah.
I know. What is your first memory? What's the first thing that you can remember as a child?
Sitting on the stoop in front of the house on Prier Street with a Prince Valiant haircut in a little dress. And there's a picture somewhere around here of me dressed like that. Looking with a... Not very happy about it. But that's the first thing I can remember.
How old do you think you were at the time?
3, maybe 4. I don't know.
And your mom put the dress on you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was the only boy. Didn't have any hand-me-down clothes, see? So.
Did that have a lot to do with the Depression?
Oh, yeah.
How was that for your family? What do you remember about that?
Well, we couldn't rub 2 nickels together, but I was never hungry. I mean, we always had food. I mean, you know, it wasn't filet mignon, but, you know, we always ate. We had food. I remember going to the grocery store, which was right across the street, to Farrah's grocery store, and getting a half a nickel of rice and a half a nickel of beans, and that's what we would have. beans and rice. If we spent a dime, then we would get what they called lagniappe, which would either be an onion, or you spent 15 cents, you might get a slice of salt pork. But there was always a little something that went with it.
Were you aware of the tough economy as a child during the Depression, or
I had no idea. No idea.
Yeah.
That's the way it was. You didn't wear shoes in the summertime. You got one haircut. Then we went back to school. You got the haircut, and a pair of shoes, and you were off again.
So it was pretty business as usual for you
guys.
Yeah.
They made do with whatever we had. My dad would raise chickens in the backyard, up off the ground. And I remember we had a chow dog, and he started killing the chickens, not to eat them, just to kill them. So Dad took care of that.
No more chow dog.
No more chow dog. And he wasn't even good for chow.
What did your parents do for a living?
My father was a policeman. My mother stayed at home. She was a stay-at-home mom. She took care of the family. She used to wash. Dad's shirts had a separate collar, like a celluloid collar, and starched his shirt, washed those, and a lot of starch in them, and there's white, just kept him clean. And I would take and clean his brass for his uniform, and sometimes I got to clean his gun, and the Buster Brown belt, it would shine that, So we all had something to do.
Was he high-ranking in the police department?
He finally got to be a sergeant after years, because they weren't, back in those years, it was a political connection to get any kind of rank. I mean, he wasn't the most educated man in the world, but he was a sergeant, did a good job.
That's good. What was your favorite thing to do when you were little?
Play. We played stickball out in the street. It was a broomstick, cut it off, and we'd take newspaper and roll it up tight, and with a string, tied 2 or 3 strings. That was the ball. And it was about that long and about that big around, and you'd hit it with the baseball bat, with the stick. And then we had mumblet peg. We played with a knife, and for marbles, the regular marbles. We played those, and we played baseball out on the railroad track.
Did you ever break anyone's window with a baseball?
No.
No. Weren't close enough to any houses to do that?
Yeah, we played right in the street there on either side, but nothing this way or that way. And they had stone shutters on the doors. You didn't get to the windows.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite toy when you were little?
Not particularly a toy, but we had rubber guns. We'd make our own, and the trigger was a clothespin.
Oh.
And played with the kids and my dog. I always had a dog. Always had a dog.
What was do you remember your first dog you had when you were little?
Yeah, Rover.
Rover. What kind of dog was he?
Heinz, 57, about that long and about that high, and a real good watchdog. You just didn't come into the gate.
And Rover never ate the chickens?
No, no.
What a good dog then. Did you have a best friend when you were a kid?
Yeah, Henry. I still talk to him till this day.
And he lives in New Orleans? And
yeah, well, he lives outside of New Orleans on the north side. North side of Lake Pontchartrain. And matter of fact, I talked to him last month.
Wow.
So I called him and he calls me. We get to thinking about one another, and we'll call. And how you doing? Okay. He's had a heart problem, but he seems to be doing okay now.
Is he the same age as you?
I think he's just a tad older than I am, if I'm not mistaken. He's either a few months older or a few months younger. I don't remember exactly which.
But same year?
Yeah, we're practically the same year.
Did you guys grow up on the same street? Is that why you were friends?
Yeah.
What type of car did your family drive?
Well, I remember my dad had a 1937 Oldsmobile. He had a car before that, but I don't remember exactly what it was. I wasn't into cars about that time. But he had a 37 Oldsmobile. I was about 8 years old at the time, 9. And it was made of such heavy metal you could get up and do a dance on the fender. You know, I mean, it was 12 gauge metal.
Wow.
It was like a tank.
Mm-hmm.
Just had 4 on the floor. And it was a nice big automobile.
What color was it?
Black.
Black. Was there a lot of color variation in cars back then?
No.
No.
Not like it is today.
What was your favorite food as a child?
Anything I could eat. I like sandwiches of anything at the time. I was not a soup eater, but I am now. You know, but then
It's funny how our tastes change when we grow
yeah,
up.
oh yes.
Now, I know that your father served in the military. Tell me about his service in the war where he served. And
Well, he was in the Washington Artillery out of New Orleans. He was first sergeant. He was on the Mexican border with General Blackjack Pershing. He went with him in the Expeditionary Forces to France, and he fought in the First World War.
Wow.
He was in the Army 8 years.
Wow. That's a long time.
Yep.
Was he drafted or did he volunteer?
I think he volunteered. I don't remember whether it was a draft or not. I wasn't around.
Yeah.
But
That's wonderful. What rank did he achieve? Do you know?
first sergeant.
Wow.
Yeah, he was the top non-com in the Washington Artillery. 3 up, 3 down, and a diamond in the middle.
That's great. So he was back from the war and everything then? Before
Oh yeah, he got out of the
born.
Army, and he worked for a friend of his for a while, Neufeld. He was driving a horse and wagon delivering, and then he got onto the police force.
He was driving a horse and wagon delivering?
Yeah.
How amazing is that?
You got to remember now that this is back in the 20s.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't have the big vehicles like they have today, you know?
Yeah.
And it was horse and wagon.
Did he meet your mom before or after he got back from World War I?
Well, he got married after he got back, not before. He may have known her before, I don't know. My mother was maybe, 16 or 17 when she got married.
Wow.
That was
And how old was your father? He was older than her?
Yeah, 3 or 4 years. I mean, he was in the Army at, 18 or 19, something like that.
Wow. That's amazing. I couldn't imagine getting married that young. But I know people did it all the time back then, too. So, tell me about school. What grade school did you go to?
Jefferson Davis.
Was it a public school or a parochial
Yes.
school?
I went to public school, but I also went to a parochial school for a short time. Our Lady Star of the Sea. Never forget Sister Ignatius. She could have played linebacker for the Rams. God love her. She was a big woman, but she was a very stern. She had not only her beads, but she had a yardstick that she carried on her side. And I don't mean one of those flimsy things now. This was almost a half-inch thick, and it had holes through it. You could hear it coming.
She ran a tight ship, didn't
Oh, yes,
she?
she did.
No one misbehaved.
No. She'd go busting into that boy's bathroom, and they'd scatter like quail.
Why
No smoking.
Oh, because the smoking in the bathroom, that's why? That's funny. Did you go to a junior high? Did they have junior high back then?
Went right from Jefferson Davis to Warren Easton High. It was a 4-year school.
And did you do any activities in high school? Were you on any sports teams or band or anything like
I
that?
tried out for everything. Didn't make everything, but I tried out, you know.
Well, trying's what counts. Did you ever make anything, or just tried and...
No, I tried, and I was not successful at it. So okay, I'll try the next one when it comes out. You know. But I was never successful at it.
What year did you graduate high school?
47.
Did you go to any high school dances or proms?
No.
No. Did they have them then?
But it was an all-boys school.
Oh, the high school was all boys?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there wasn't co-educational yet.
Oh, wow.
That
I
came.
didn't realize that. So was your grade school all boys too then?
No.
No.
No, that was co-ed up to about the 7th grade. You had A and B classes, okay? 7A and 7B.
And this was all in New Orleans still?
Yeah, I walked to the grade school, and I took a bus to go to high school. A public bus now, not a
school bus.
Not a school bus. No.
Oh, wow. So your school didn't have any dances? They didn't meet up with any all-girls schools and have socials?
I'm sure they did, but I didn't.
You never went?
I never went.
You never went.
There was, when I was just finishing up high school, they opened up one high school, J.C. Nichols, which was co-educational. It was the first co-educational school in the city. I went there for a month and I had to leave. I wasn't studying anything.
Oh, too many distractions.
Yes.
Was it segregated back then?
Yes, definitely segregation. They still had the Jim Crow law.
Yeah. Yeah,
which was stupid, but, you know, I didn't know any better then.
You didn't recognize growing up, or especially in the South, that there was huge differences, or did you personally not care? Or what was your family's view towards segregation? Do you remember?
Yeah, the view was, you know, I was raised by a black woman. My mother was sick when I was a kid. So Clark was her name. She was always at the house, sit down at the table with us, everything, you know. She cooked, cleaned, she did everything, you know. I'd go and crawl up in her arms, you know, just, so I never really had any feelings when, you know, that they were any less people than we were or anything like that, you know.
So you grew up in your household, since you had someone there, that it wasn't any different to you. You didn't grow up having any different thoughts about people. That's good. That's very good. Do you remember the first movie that you saw in a movie theater?
I don't know if it was the first movie